It's about faith to believe. It's about hope to receive. It's about love to give life. It's about transplant life with me, Ms. Vinny. So, hey everyone, it's Miss Vinny, and I am here with my new friend, Paul Caine from Cumberland, England. He is way on the other side of the world right now. And I,
Hello.
and I am
Nice to
here
see you
in
again.
Los Angeles, California. How are you doing, Paul?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Each day is a new gift, so I'm great. Thank you.
Yes, you are. Now, Paul is a two-time kidney transplant recipient with an incredible story that I am so excited to share. We came across each other. How did we meet, Paul? You found me on Facebook, I think,
I
right?
think it was Facebook, yeah.
And we've been best friends ever since. We are brother and sister in Christ, right?
100%.
Yeah, you remind me of Job, Paul, and David all in one because you've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
I
If
said,
that's true, there was little comfort in it.
Paul has been through everything in the Bible, man. It's like, oh my goodness, what a story you have.
Yeah.
And you are still fighting, still raising
Oh, yeah.
awareness about the importance of organ donation over there in England. And I'm so
Nobody wants to
glad.
go on to dialysis there, but I was press ganged and it actually worked out quite nice, so I've got no complaints.
Yeah, God is good no matter what, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your incredible transplant journey,
Yeah.
and we'll start with your childhood. There, are you originally from Cumberland, England?
Yes, yes. A bit sad really, but I've lived all my life in Workington, and I should say that we call it Wookington in Cumberland. We have a local accent. So
Am
I
I
first
saying it?
actually,
Am I saying it right with my American accent?
you
Cumberland.
sound you sound great. I mean, it was originally when I was 7. I got tonsillitis, a urinary tract infection, and pneumonia, but it wasn't really very serious. I was in hospital for a bit, and then you get over it, don't you? But actually, I think at that point there was an infection started that was to cause more trouble when I was 11, and I swelled up like a pregnant woman, um, which wasn't great. They
When you
found
were
out that
11 years old?
no, that I was the first time I got the infection was when I was 7, and then when I was 11, it came back, and I got well. The glomerulonephritis, they call it. I
Oh
was in
my
hospital
goodness.
for 6 months, and they managed to save my kidneys with like eye steroids. And again, I thought that was great, and off I went. But then when I was 18, it came back, and they really knew my kidneys would go at some point because of those infections. So
Okay, so
one
I
minute
want
I
to
was,
ask you a question. I want to ask you a
yeah,
question about your childhood
sure.
because I'm sure you said your stomach was protruding. What was life like for you as a child? I know kids can be brutal sometimes.
Um,
Did you
well,
get did you get picked on a lot?
I was. You do tend to get picked on if you look different. I mean, I was very skeletal in a way. I mean, you can see the pictures that I sent you, and it really impacted me. But me as a kid, I didn't really think of it like that. Everybody gets into fights with name calling, stuff like that. And that's just the way it is. I think the main thing was, as my disease progressed, it reduced my energy levels.
Mm.
Um, and so by the time I was like 18, um, all of a sudden, I went to the doctors for the flu when I came back with kidney disease, and I needed to go into renal failure. So it was a bit of a shock. I was hoping to go into the steel industry like my father and his father before me, but it was the dialysis life for me, and I
The
didn't do
dialysis life for you.
dialysis. Yeah,
Wow. So you went into renal failure at 18, and then you didn't go to like a facility 3 times a week. Talk about, is it CAPD? What does that stand for?
yeah. I mean, I didn't know a lot about dialysis. I just knew what it was the machine, and that was it. But I wasn't that lucky. They put me on to CAPT, which is continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, which is actually a superb type of dialysis. Um, the difference is you can do it at home in a sterile environment. You have a catheter put into your peritoneum, and you drain a bag of fluid, 2 litre bag of fluid, in 4 times a day, and then you drain out. You change the exchanges 4 times a day, they call them, and you kind of get into a pattern, and suddenly it's your normal sort of life. The thing that really impacted on me being 18 and wanting to look for a girlfriend, that had quite an effect because really I was looking for a female plumber. Um, there's not many female plumbers in Cumbria, and so that was a
You were
bit of
looking
a
for
scare.
what now? Because you talk fast, so I want
Sorry, I
people to
do,
be able
I
to
do.
understand
I,
just
I,
how funny you are. So you
yeah,
were
I
looking
mean,
for a
it
female
wasn't that
what?
funny at the time living here because I couldn't
I
find a
know.
female plumber.
I know. Poor baby. You went through so much dealing
I
with this.
think,
Now, I want to make it clear now, you had to do dialysis 4 times a day, every single day.
well, no, the dialysis was ongoing. It was continuous. There was
Oh,
all this fluid. What it is a dexterous fluid that he put into your peritoneum. And through a process of osmosis, the, the chemicals in the water come out of the blood, go into the peritoneum, and then out the other side. But the fluid, the dexterous fluid, collects the chemicals and the excess waste, and you drain it out. So what you do, you have a bag on your side. So that was the bit that really affected me mentally. Yeah. So you just put it on the floor and you don't unplug it, and it would then fill up. Then you would change it, put a new one on, put it on the wardrobe door, and then it would drain back in. So it's all the time. Peritoneal dialysis is brilliant for me because it was continuous. My blood levels were continuously being dialysed. Where the emo, it's ups and downs. The only problem was living here was infections, and I wasn't very good with that.
oh yeah.
I mean,
You had quite a few, didn't you?
I had nine. I got peritonitis 9 times, and that was the bacterial. And that to me, that to rush me to Newcastle to give me antibiotics, and that usually sorted it out. And that you can die from it, but if you get it quick, you're all right. The thing to remember is you've got soup in your peritoneum. Certainly, if you're bacteria, dialysis fluid is just like really tasty soup, and so the
Really
bacteria,
tasty soup.
yeah, they basically double every 30 minutes, and that's why you need to be treated. Because otherwise, if your levels get too bad, you die. That was fine. It was painful, but the 10th time I got it after 5 years um, was the viral. There's no cure for that, so I was in trouble. Went
How
through
old were you when you got viral peritonitis?
yeah, the viral peritonitis when I was it was 5 years in. Um, they rushed you
You were
through.
like 23 years old or something like that.
That's you should be a mathematician there, Lavinia. No, no, it was there, and they didn't have any treatment. The only thing they could do was to remove the catheter and flush it out and cross your fingers. So that's what they did. And unfortunately, it came back. So they took me back to theatre. Now, this time I'd lost 3 stone in weight. I was racked with fever, and
Fever?
yeah, the high temperature. It was like I was really getting hammered, basically. But I would not have had the strength to do a third operation. So this was it. So I went in, got it done. I was in the recovery room. Oh, Lavinia was I in pain. It was very painful. I had the nurses all around me trying to help. Oh, and then I noticed the clock on the wall, and you know what? The arms on the clock slowed down, and I looked at it. I was next minute I was in a tunnel. I was in a tunnel and I could feel no pain. I mean, I'd been in agony. I couldn't
You were
believe
in
it.
a tunnel? Is when you saw the light, huh?
Yeah, I saw the light and it drew me towards it, and it was felt so good. And I couldn't. I was about to touch it, and I heard this voice say, "No, no, not yet, Paul. It's not your time. Go back." Well, I didn't want to go back because this was heaven,
Hmm.
almost in every sense of the word.
You
The
could
next minute,
feel
I was
it.
back.
You could feel it. You could
Pardon?
feel the presence of God. You could feel you felt better. You felt different. What
I,
did you feel like?
at that time, it didn't feel. It just felt like love. But when I was back in the theatre, in the recovery room, back in all that pain, everything had changed. My heart was. I knew Jesus loved me. I knew
Hmm.
that He loves. Well, He loves us all. We're made in His image. I was so full of love. So that was great. I was a Christian, and I survived after a couple of. I was in hospital a good many months. I was wrecked really, but when I came, yeah, I was a Christian, but unfortunately, you don't get a day off. You can't phone in sick on dialysis. You either go in or you die. So
Hmm.
I had too much scar tissue to go on peritoneal dialysis, so they put me onto emo. Um,
After you died and came back, literally,
yeah, yeah.
you had to go back on dialysis.
It's not really how I imagined being a Christian. I thought everything would be great, but actually, I was still on dialysis. I went under the machines. I dialyzed 3 times a week. And both systems are quite good. And it was the traveling. I was doing so much traveling, but it's a bit like a butcher's block being on dialysis, and I mean that in the deepest, with the deepest
A
respect to our
butcher's
wonderful
block?
doctors. I mean, they're always cutting something out, mending this, sorting that. You get like dialysis is about staying alive, keeping motivated, fighting, and and jumping them hurdles when they come at you because they will come. And I got to be pretty good at jumping them hurdles.
Yeah,
But
you good at
ten
jumping
years,
hurdles.
after 10 years living here,
Hmm.
well, I just about had enough. I mean, I was all battered with all these operations, and mentally I was starting to lose hope. I'd never had one call for a transplant. Um, so I was prepared to die, but I wanted to leave.
You just said you were prepared to
Excuse
die,
me.
but you wanted
Um,
to live.
yeah, I wanted to leave, and all of a sudden I got a phone call. After 10 years, I got a phone call, and my life changed. They had a kidney for me, and I was lucky enough to be given it because obviously they invite 2 or 3 people in for the same kidney, and literally even right after the operation, even with the pain and the anaesthetic and the painkillers and that, I immediately knew, hey, this is great. My blood feels better. And
You
I
felt
mean, back in,
100% better, right?
oh yes, I mean,
So that was you had your first transplant because you had two kidney transplants. The first
yeah, it
one
was in
was
1990, and I say
1990,
my
right?
life was like a desert. I was really, yeah, I'd had enough, and literally within 3 months, I had found a job. I walked into a church. It was the right church because I met my wife there. I met the
Hmm.
most wonderful girl. We call her Joanna, and we've been married 33 years. She just can't get rid of us. And and literally within 12 months of that transplant, we had our first child. I had a son, so that was Joshua. And I had a career, you know. We bought a new house. Everything was going great. It was textbook. But then it rejected. It just just I don't know. It's like 7 years. I was back onto dialysis and back
Mhm.
in trouble. Main problem I had living here was after the first 10 years, the struggle for access. I mean, my fistula had been tied off and necklines, and it was a struggle. And it was 18 months that I was on dialysis, and my brother came forward and offered me his kidney.
So
Um,
let's recap a little bit. You
yeah,
got your first transplant in 1990. Do you know who your donor was?
you're given certain information, right? So I know that she was 33. She died of a brain hemorrhage in the General Hospital at Newcastle. And I honest, the kidney lasted 7 years. I think of that last every day because I
Hmm.
would never have got a transplant of my brother without that. That lady saved my life. Now I wrote to her. I wrote to her family. Now they never got back, but I would just love them to know what that gift, what their mum, what their daughter has done by
Yeah.
leaving something as precious as a kidney. It's transformed my life. Um, and I've had a fantastic life. The operation, the one of my brother Alan, well, it's 25 years ago, and a transplant is not a miracle cure, but it's so close you won't notice the difference. And all I know, I mean, it was quite funny living here because you have to keep yourself motivated on dialysis. And I've
Yeah.
got coping strategies like my dog. My dogs are lovely. I also have them in your corner. And I also started playing snooker and pool and got very good at it. And I won loads of plastic trophies. And when I come to look for a job in 1990, oh, my CV looked like it needed a transplant. Um, but the funny thing was, I had learned I'd done my very special own training program. When I was on the dialysis wards, I always noticed how people who began to look down, that's the way they usually went. So I started motivating, I started encouraging and supporting as a way of fighting back to the disease that was killing me.
Mm.
So when I come to start work, I didn't have a lot of experience, but I was very good at engaging. Believe it or not, I've got no evidence today, but it gave me the gift. I'm a good community development worker with volunteer engagement, and it's all what I learned about. Basically, you just as as a Christian, you love people, and there's no point loving people if you don't show it. And we are the hands and feet of the Lord.
That is
Um,
so powerful what you just said.
it, it's the blessings we've received we can cascade through good deeds and being nice to people because you don't know what people are fighting. Um, so all I know is that organ donation is my passion now, and I've done a lot of promotion, campaigning in the UK. I'll tell you a story, Lavinia. I think I've told you this. I was watching telly on dialysis in 1986, and this news program came on, and it was about Belgium in 1985, they'd changed to an opt out system, which I didn't really understand. And the
Opt
article
out
explained,
system.
and and basically, after 12 months, there'd been a 55% increase in donor procurement, which is a lot of lives. And I love stats, I love statistics, but one statistic is a whole person's life. And that's what's
Mhm.
important. So I thought this has got to come. Well, he didn't. So I started the campaign. I started to raise awareness, and a wonderful thing that I really enjoyed doing eventually because I survived. I did a sponsored parachute jump with some friends, which was really frightening because I'm scared of heights. But we raised 25, oh well, over £25,000, and I nearly scared myself to death.
You are so funny. You are so funny. I want to step back for a second because
Yeah,
we kind of brushed over it. I want to talk about when your brother donated his kidney in
yeah,
1999. So he is a living kidney donor. How
that's
did
right.
you feel about that, receiving your brother's kidney?
I
Tell me
think
about
I think I think Shakespeare would struggle to capture the spirit of a living donor. They are truly awesome, man. The modern day heroes for him, because the living donor walks into a theatre not for personal gain, to take the pain and save someone. I mean, it's just the perfect altruistic act. It's what being human is all about. The best quality, if you like. It's
Yeah.
compassion, it's kind, and the sacrifice. So I've done a lot to try and promote living donors, and I can never repay my brother. I just can't. And
How's he doing?
do you know, well, he's older than me, although he looks younger there. I think I've been in the sun too long. Um, but I mean, he's 72 now, and he's really been good. He was the fittest of a lot of us. He's having some problems, health problems associated with old age now. Um, but Alan's life and my life are a testament that living organ donation works.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important. And one of the things I've tried to do, I've tried to keep organ donation awareness on the agenda. I've been very successful in Cumbria and had some success nationally as well. It's very important to raise so people understand the issues. And when 2020 came and deemed consent was introduced into the UK, I thought, well, I'll just have a rest now. And that was actually wrong because you need to refresh people's minds about this because they need to understand about consent and about sharing that information with the next of kin.
Hmm.
So I'll just have a little drink. You can't have talk, Lavinia.
You are so cute.
So one of the passions that I picked up on was I got an email of someone about Doha News, and it was about a lovely picture of 114 living donors being honoured by their country. It was just a beautiful picture, and I thought, well, why aren't we doing that here? We've got to celebrate living donors.
Yeah.
The news is so depressing. The press will take your arm off for a good story, a positive story. So I wrote to the Princess of Wales asking her if she would support a living donor event. My idea was that once a year, everybody who's given an organ, a liver lobe or a kidney, would go to Buckingham Palace and be given national recognition and honoured and celebrated for their sacrifice. Because giving a kidney not only saves lives, it
Yeah.
actually saves money, which isn't too bad, really. It's a good recipe. So she got she got you got to remember that it's very difficult to get through to the royal family. So I also got in touch with the NHS Blood and Transplant Service. So they've got oversight for transplantation in the NHS in the UK.
Oh,
And I
okay.
wrote to them and I explained, and they are a very circumspect bunch because public confidence is important. But they said, I remember the exact words. We have got no problem with this idea, which is quite a positive statement for them. And they said they've got no money for this financial year, which is what you would do if you had a good project. But they said, let us know if the princess wants to get involved. So she didn't, but she passed me out. She says, why don't you write to the king? Because he does barbecues. Not barbecues. He does garden parties. Now, he was a bit more,
Did you say he loves barbecues?
yeah, which is a joke. But he was a bit more frank and he said that we can't support individual requests. And that's fine because by this time I'd been working with the NHS Blood and Transplant Service, engaging with them to try and get them interested. The other thing I tried to do was to set up one in our county and run a Cumbrian event. Um, so that's what we did. And Paul Mead, my lovely consultant, and Sharon, um, the liaison nurse, yeah, we held a big event and we invited 5 years of people who've donated kidneys. and the room was absolutely full of smiles. It was just beautiful. If I could have bottled the atmosphere in that room, I'd be a rich man. We had the
So what
TV.
year did you do that?
Pardon?
What year did that happen?
Um, so that was, well, I started banging on doors in 2022. So it happened in 2023 in September.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's kind of recent.
and
That's great.
it was good because we actually I managed to attract a director from the NHS Blood and Transplant Service. So they saw what happened, and I have absolutely um, no doubt that actually it will happen in this country. Um, it's just a matter of time, and that's where I disagree with. I think we should save people's lives now, because when
Right.
people see that story on the news, you're, you're having thousands of conversations about organ donation around the country, in people's houses, in workplaces, and that's what we've got to do to reach people. Because organ donation is just, I don't know, it's love made flesh. It's just a beautiful thing.
It
Um,
really is. It's the circle of life, isn't it? It's not.
well,
I tell people all the time, organ donation is like the new normal.
I,
It's a way
I,
that your life doesn't end, but it begins again in someone else because you give someone else a second
absolutely.
chance at life,
And
right?
that's why it's important what you're doing. I really applaud what you're doing, because you're changing people. You're helping people to make their own informed decisions. And people who've had an organ, it changes their life and it changes their mindset. And I respect anybody who says, well, actually, I don't want to be part of doing consent. That's great. I respect
Yeah,
that. But if it was their child that was on dialysis,
right,
or their daughter, their wife, or even themselves, waiting for a kidney, waiting
right.
for a heart. Because in a way, there is a dialysis machine, but there isn't a liver machine and there isn't a lung machine. You would want your child to have the best chance of a positive outcome. And I don't think there's anything better than a kidney transplant or a heart transplant. And that's why we've got to spread the word. And the nice thing is, I can do it in a Christian way. I mean, when I used to work, um, everybody knew I was a Christian. I didn't care. It was difficult because as a member of I used to work for the council. They're very anti-Christian, if you like. You haven't got to push it.
Mm.
They don't
You
mind
said
other
they were
religions.
anti-Christian.
It's funny, the Carlisle City Council. They used to start their council meetings with a prayer, and then that was it. But I lived the life that I feel like I'm a fisherman in a way for Jesus. And if my nets are in Carlisle City Council, or in a community centre at Maryport, then I'll catch fish, because I'm doing. The nice thing is, living here, we're really lucky, both of us. I know you're a Christian there. I do
Yeah.
the awareness training, and I do it my way now, because I never used to mention about being a Christian, because I was told, don't mention it, you'll distract. And so, yeah, I understand that. I
Don't
know.
mention it. You'll be what?
Well, if you mention you're a Christian, you see, my story is quite powerful about how I became a Christian. It's my real story, and I took it out so I wouldn't distract. Since 2020, I've put it in now, and so when I do my training courses, awareness courses, I'm going there to like inform people about organ donation and important issues, which could save their lives. But I'm also trying to save the souls as well,
That's
and that
right.
to
See,
me would be
that's why the
the real
Lord
blessing.
put us together. I believe in divine
Yeah,
connections.
yeah,
And that is exactly our mission here at About Transplant Life. Because I have found in dealing with, transplant community here in America
yeah,
that they want to talk about doctors and science and all of those things, and that's fine and that's
that's right.
good. But how are you going to talk about hearts and kidneys and livers and you don't talk about the creator of life. You don't talk about, the God who created all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Because transplant is not just a physical journey, it's a very spiritual one. And you
It is.
understand that very well. You had an encounter
Do you
with
know?
Jesus himself, and that's just so amazing.
I'm just a guy full. I'm just an ordinary guy full of love. I look back my life on those 10 years as a single man was hell. I even tried to commit suicide once. I was so distraught. In 1987, when I went under dialysis, I said I'm going to go on dialysis as long as I can live a decent life. If I get too disabled, stuff it. That's how I said it as a young man. It wasn't very intelligent, but I was angry. And I meant that. But then in 1987, the thing is, it affects your mental health. You don't even,
Yeah.
and I never mentioned mental health in those days, in the 80s. But my bottom line was I wanted to find a girl I could love to marry and have a job, that's all. And I had I had an operation across my throat with my parathyroids. I took them out. Long-term dialysis, it softens the bones, really. So that's what they did. And when I woke up, I had these metal staples. I looked like Frankenstein.
Oh
And
no.
I thought, I can't take that, eh? So I didn't tell you this earlier, living here, but actually I went out. I bought some tablets. In them days, you could buy 99 paracetamols. And I sat in St. James Park crying, taking these tablets. I woofed them down, eh? I thought, I'm not going to be like this, get stuffed. Eh? I don't want to live like this. And, well, eventually I was walking. I walked back to the hospital in the end. I mean, I don't know how, but I did. And they found out, they kept that, what's the matter, Paul? What's the matter? I wouldn't, in the end, I told them, eh? And a great doctor, called him Dr. Tapson, I give him both barrels. I says, I'm forgot about, eh? I says, how come people are going to leave transplants? He says, they don't. I says, they do. I says, I'm stuck in Cumbria, you know. Anyway, bless him. Next day, I'm on dialysis on the machine at the RVI, and they come in with the television cameras and interviewers. So that it's when you go the extra mile. If you go the extra mile, people remember you. Now, I
So
should
what
say,
happened when after you took the pills, Paul?
yeah, luckily I was all right. I don't know why I was all right.
You don't know
Um,
why?
I reckon it wasn't my time either. But what I would say was Dr. Tapson was right. I didn't get it. It didn't help us get a transplant. But what he did do, and what we can do, is show that he cares, that they care, and that we care. And do you know what? You can go throughout if somebody's behind you, supporting you. Um, and honest, the journey I went through, I would have hated to have gone on again. But now that I know God was in control, if I had to do it all tomorrow again, I would, because God's good and His plans are higher than mine. And
Mhm.
I just have to go with the big lad there because he's treating me well.
Yeah. Has faith in God always been a part of your life?
No, not really. No, I mean, I think when we were kids, we lived opposite the Baptist church, and I think the only piece that my mum and dad got on a Sunday when they were making dinner, they used to shove us kids into the Sunday school there. I think I stopped going when I was 9, so it didn't figure. I wasn't anti-Christian. It just totally boring to a 9-year-old. And I was like that till, I mean, when I was a young man, I would never have, I don't pick on people. I don't laugh at people. I don't ridicule people. I try and make people feel better about themselves.
But you
Um,
experienced that in your life a lot, didn't you?
well, that's right. That's right. And the thing is, the way I looked, I could walk into a room and people would be able to like press my button, you know. And I'll be honest with you, it got me down. But you either give up or you fight back. And I chose to fight back. But it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing because
You
when
were
I started
angry, you
fighting
fought
back,
back a lot.
hmm?
You were angry, you fought back a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to, eh? Otherwise, they keep coming, eh? But the
Mm.
thing was, though, Lavinia, and it's a funny thing when you realise who the guy I am and the kind of character I am. I actually started bullying, and that's what bullying does. When you bully somebody, you're teaching somebody to bully somebody else.
Yeah,
It's like a
I get
virus
it.
in a way. It affects you.
Hurt
It
people
puts
hurt
you
other
there.
people.
I mean,
It's true.
so I, 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 I was very lucky, really, because so I started bullying these lads to give us beer mats. This is when I was at school, and because just what you put drinks on in pubs, and they had nice patterns and stuff there. And it wasn't me. And then one day, this lad says, "No, I'm not giving you a beer mat," and he smacked us in the mouth. And then got broke up. This is when I was in senior school, and I was absolutely struck to my core. I was horrified. I didn't mind the punch, and I could have got him after school. But what he did to me was show who I had become. And I didn't like that, and that was it.
Good
So
for you.
that's why I am quite into anti-bullying, and I've done a lot of stuff in the press on how we treat people is important there. Um, and sometimes you've got to go through something to know how to help people.
Say that again. You got to do what?
Well, sometimes you've got to go through these experiences to know what it feels like, so you
That's
can
right.
help people
So you can
not
help
to
people.
repeat that.
That's right.
And there's lots of support now for bullying and stuff like that, which is brilliant. I mean, something? So many suicides in England, young
Really.
people. I mean, I don't know whether it's something to do with the internet and stuff like that, but it's wrong. The thing is, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And, you know, when I was a young man, 18 to 28, I was in a drinking culture, but I couldn't drink because I was on a fluid restriction. And we used to do 9 pubs a night, and I couldn't drink much. So it wasn't much fun, but I am the type of person I
How
didn't
come
drink.
you couldn't drink much? Because
Yeah, I couldn't drink much fluid. You wouldn't put
yeah,
if you put too much fluid on, it damages your heart, and you go into trauma
mhm,
when you dialyze and that.
yeah.
But the thing I would say about that is, for a young man, it wasn't the best environment for me. And so again, I got into fights and stuff like that. And really, I was just looking for something, and that's really where Jesus come in. He calmed
Mm,
the storm. He calmed my heart. I knew I was loved. And let's face it, Living, if somebody loves you like Jesus, it doesn't really matter what people say. Because,
no,
you know, we know this life isn't a practice. You've got to make a difference whenever and wherever you can. Challenge wrongdoing. And that's the hope that we bring. I really think every person who's been on dialysis or gone through organ failure that is lucky enough to survive,
mm,
they're in a perfect position. They've got all the tools that they need to help somebody next to them who's struggling. And
that's right.
that's a hidden output, really, for organ donation. But it's a
That's
good
right.
one.
So God has been so good to you. He gave you a
Absolutely.
beautiful wife
We've got 3 children now.
and
And
3 children, and how many
two boys,
grandchildren?
2 boys and a girl grown up, and 3 grandchildren.
So
It's
after
been
all
brilliant.
you've been through, just like Job, God restored
Oh, yeah,
everything.
my cup runneth over. And it's lovely now because my little grandson comes round. He's 5. I can spoil him. It's a
Yeah.
grandfather's allowance, really. I can do. I'm a better father as a grandfather than I was as a father because you don't get no training to be a young father. And
Hmm.
then when I get tired, I just ring my son up and he'll come and take them away. I need to go to bed. That's that.
I
Listen, that's
just
what
took
life
a
is.
kick out of you.
Oh, no, it's a joy. It really is.
Yeah, I am so, so, so happy that after all you've been through, that the joy of the Lord is truly your strength, and that your primary focus is helping other people.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
in every job I've ever had, whether I'm volunteering, sport, I'm always on the lookout for someone who needs a little bit of encouragement because it doesn't cost nothing to be kind. But goodness me, the harvest that people can take. You go down the street, if you say hello and you smile, I mean, not particularly my smile, but your smile. would make people feel better. That's the power that we have. It's
Yes,
wonderful.
yes, it is wonderful. So, what's next for Paul Caine from
Um,
Cumberland, England? What are you thinking about now?
um, what I've tried to do every year is to keep organ donation on the agenda, and that's what I've tried to do. And if there isn't a doorway, I'll make one. So last year, well, it was 2023, we did all the living donor stuff, and it was brilliant. Um, and I was about to, well, I just felt so ill, and I didn't know what it was. And we had this living donor event, and it was Sharon said, "Look, send us your speech and that, and if you don't make it." But I knew if I'd done that, I wouldn't have went. I was literally so ill. I was so tired. So me and my wife and my brother and his wife Betty, Alan and Betty, we all went through. He made a great speech. I did another one, and it was just brilliant. And then the day after that, I got diagnosed with lymphoma, cancer. Um, so
Hmm.
I was planning after that to move on to do my own awareness training. Well, that got kicked right into touch, yeah, because I was really quite ill. I was quite lucky to survive, really, yeah. I mean, I honestly, Vinny, I don't know what it is about us, but I'm really hard to kill, eh? I mean, yeah, I tell you, I've dodged the Grim Reaper so many times. He
You
carries a
dodged
Caine
the
rifle
Grim
with
Reaper
me.
so many
Oh,
times.
yes. But I'm very lucky, yeah. I know God, no one's going to take me till God says, eh? And who's going to
That's
argue
right.
with this time, eh? So I've had a tough year with cancer. I'm now better.
Oh,
Well, I
good.
was better. And I thought, I'm going to do my awareness training. So I did my first one of them. And it's as I say, it's a story of it's about my personal story of organ donation, some stats, and my Christian story, which is a particular joy. So I'm able to do that. But you know what, Lavinia? What the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. And I'm having some unusual side effects. So now, I would say, for 2 years, I've had what they call neuro atrophy. Sorry, peripheral atrophy. Peripheral neuroatrophy. It's a mouthful. Peripheral neuroatrophy. And it damages the nerves in your feet and your hands. So my balance isn't so good now. So you can put music on when I walk down the street. Looks like I'm dancing. So, um, but that's okay. You cope, you adapt. That's what dialysis patients and transplant patients do. We're very
That's why I
good.
bless my medication. Now I don't receive
Oh,
none of them side effects.
well,
That's not gonna happen to me.
it's
You have
actually
to speak what you believe, and
it
I
was
speak faith over mine. I'm not having none of that.
well without that
No, sir.
medication, Lavinia, you wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes.
I don't. I
So
don't. I don't like
about
that
6 months
transplant
ago, I
medication.
started getting some unusual symptoms, and they thought I was like, well, I've got glaucoma there, but that's just cracking on. It's not really moving very fast, and I started losing sight. So I went. We're going to look at giving us a cataract. It turns out that it wouldn't do any good. The optic nerves are dissolving, and it's peripheral neuroatrophy affecting me. So soon, I'm probably going to be blind. Which means every time I comb my hair, I look great, you know. So
You know
it's
what?
just a new challenge to adapt to. And the
Yeah,
real hero of Lavinia is my wife. Can you imagine? She has to put up with me. Poor lass.
I think that she is very blessed to have a wonderful husband like you, Paul.
No, no, it's me that's blessed. She's the finest pearl. Oh, she's lovely. But don't tell her that. Go to it. She'll start charging us. I'm feeling so lucky. The thing is, when I was 18, I fancied being a plater, which is it's like a carpenter in metal, a boilersmith. But God said, no, Paul, you're going to do an apprenticeship. You're going to become a Christian. You're going to learn how to get on with people. And you're going to be what I want you to be, the man you should be. And so whenever I feel as though because sometimes you get a bit stuck because you can't see this and I'm having to adapt there. I think, easy, Paul. I'm here for a reason there. And I think of Paul, is it Paul and Barnabas in prison? singing
Yep.
songs
Yep.
in chains. So we've got very little to complain about. And when the time comes that I can't see, I'm practicing now. I see, I feel more, see less. So each stage of your life brings fruit. You just have to reach up and pick it. God's provision.
Well, I choose to believe that God can do anything. And I choose to believe that He can even heal your eyes, Paul,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give you 20/20 vision. So I want you to promise me that you will not look forward to being blind, but you will look forward to being healed from this day forward. Will you do that?
I certainly will live in you. I certainly. You've been talking to my wife, haven't you?
I agree with her.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, God could do anything. He's brought you through this. I went to the hospital last year and the doctors tried to tell me that my heart was getting stiff.
yeah.
My new transplanted heart was getting stiff. That's what they said. And they said my arteries were 70% blocked. And I went into my secret place, which was the bathroom in the hospital. And I got together five scriptures that dealt with my healing.
Amen.
Understanding that the word of God is medicine and it is life. And I started to pray those scriptures and I was demanding my healing because I absolutely refuse to let the devil take my new heart from me. Right? Let me tell you something.
Amen to that. I agree.
The next day, the doctors had to come into my room and tell me that my heart was not stiff and that my arteries were not blocked. And I went home that very same day.
It's
So
amazing.
I understand that God can do anything. He can reverse any negative diagnosis. So I want you to get you five scriptures. I'm going to send it to you of healing. And I want you to declare them every single day. And I
I'll
declare
give
that
it
your
a
eyes
try.
are going to get
I'll
stronger
give it a try.
and stronger and stronger
I,
every single
I
day.
will.
And
I
you
will.
will not go blind, Paul Caine.
Well, amen to that.
Amen to that. Amen to that. The devil is a liar. You got too much more to do. You're not going blind.
Yeah. He trains us. He equips us for each new situation. And
That's
I pray for healing. I've been healed since 1985 when I became a Christian. Nothing's going to separate me from the love of God. But
yeah.
I hear your words, and
Oh Lord, my God, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me. That's what the word says. You see that, right?
do you know I've had so many blessings off him. He'll be stitching the blooming letterbox up. Not again, not again.
But don't get tired yet. I believe that God has so much more for you to do.
Oh, I'm gonna be a nuisance. Don't you worry about that.
I
And
love you, Paul Caine from
God bless
Cumberland,
you, and
England.
you
You are
do it.
so amazing. Thank you for sharing your story with me here on About Transplant Life.
Yeah.
From all the way from the other side of the world, you are my brother from another mother. You have been through some stuff, but the Lord has brought us through it all. And here we are together on the same screen.
Mm.
Mm.